globalists, we stand up to Marxists, we stand up to the rhinos. You know, the rhinos are pretty bad. Because with the rhinos, you don't exactly know where they're coming from. The others you know, but with the rhinos, sometimes you find out. And we got to stand up to the rhinos. Communists and environmental extremists. You know, you have environmental extremists, too. We stand up to the open borders fanatics, the radical left Democrats, their lawless, partisan prosecutors, the prosecutors. Every time I fly over a blue state, I get a subpoena. We want him before the grand jury. And we stand up to the fake news media, which is seriously bad. And on November 5th, 2024, we're going to stand up to the corrupt political establishment. We're going to evict a totally corrupt president, Joe Biden, from the White House. And we're going to finish the job that we started, the most successful presidency. And I think, as everybody in this absolutely packed House knows, I've put everything on the line, and I will never yield. I never yield. I will never be deterred. I will never stop fighting for you. I didn't need this. I had a great life. People said, would you do it again? The answer is yes, because we're going to make America great again. We had it there. And then bad things happened. Bad things happened with an election, right? Bad things happened. But we're going to make it great like never before. I really believe that. With your vote, we will take back our country from these fascists and thugs, and we will absolutely make America great again. From the beginning, our America First agenda has been an existential threat to the rotten political class that gets rich and powerful at your expense, erasing our borders, cheating on elections, exporting our jobs, and squandering our blood and treasure on endless foreign wars. We were out of all our wars. Everybody said when I got elected, remember, oh, his personality, you're going to have wars, you're going to be fighting the whole world. And it just worked out. Actually, it was my personality that didn't want to make people fight. It was sort of reverse. First time in 70 years that this has happened. We started no wars. We finished some. We defeated the ISIS caliphate 100% and many other things. We've rebuilt our military. Of course, they gave a lot of it away, didn't they, huh? They gave a lot of our military away to Afghanistan, if you can even believe it. Afghanistan is now one of the largest exporters of military arms. They sell the things that we gave to them. $85 billion. We lost 13 soldiers, many very horrifically wounded, and we left many Americans behind. They moved out the military first. No, it was supposed to be the opposite. You move out the military last. They've launched one hoax and witch hunt after another to try and stop our movement and thwart the will of the American people. Every time not even believable. Witch hunt, scam, hoax. It's called election interference, and they're doing the best they can with it. Because who the hell would vote for them with the policies that they have of open borders and no voter ID? As the Durham report, which just came out, proved, they spied on my campaign. Think of it. Can you imagine if it was the other way around? They spied on my campaign and we caught them. They forged false evidence to get illegal surveillance warrants. The FBI offered $1 million for a fictitious dossier written by a foreign spy to try to frame me for treason. Now they're trying to do it again. These people don't stop, and they're bad, and we have to get rid of them. We have to get rid of them fast. They put our country through hell, and they knew it was all a lie the entire time. They knew it was a lie. Remember, it's not me they're going after. It's somebody else, and that person will not be able to withstand the fire. If it's not me, you know, it'll be somebody else. They're not going to withstand that fire, because that fire doesn't stop just with me. That fire is going to go on against any conservative, any Republican, anybody other than them, because they want the power, but they actually want to destroy our country. I believe that, because there could be no other reason. But I know them all, and they, in many cases, even admit it. They come up, they say, how do you take it? We take it and we fight back like nobody's ever fought before. Think of it. Think of it. We had Russia, 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 right? Total fake. All came out now fake. It was all made up by Hillary Clinton. The dossier was by Clinton and others, the Democratic Party, DNC. So we had Russia, 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 Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. The no collusion Mueller witch hunt. They found after 2.5 years there was no collusion. Impeachment hoax number 1, perfect phone call. Impeachment hoax number 2, the illegal censorship of the Hunter Biden laptop from hell. Remember the laptop from hell? Remember that? When the 51 intelligence officials falsely said that it was Russian disinformation. Everybody knew that wasn't true. They knew it wasn't true. That's become a big scandal. That was another form of cheating on the election. A lot of the great pollsters, we have a couple of them here tonight, they said that you look at what they said about it. 17-point difference. It's incredible. But the 51 intelligence agents lied. Now the Marxist left is once again using the same corrupt DOJ and the same corrupt FBI and the Attorney General and the local district attorneys to interfere in our elections at a level that our country and few countries have ever seen before. They're cheating, they're crooked, they're corrupt. These criminals cannot be rewarded. They must be defeated. You have to defeat them. Have to defeat them. Because in the end, they're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I'm just standing in their way. Here I am. I'm standing in their way, and I always will be. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The ridiculous and baseless indictment of me by the Biden administration's weaponized Department of Injustice will go down as among the most horrific abuses of power in the history of our country. Many people have said that. Democrats have even said it. This vicious persecution is a travesty of justice. You're watching Joe Biden. Joe, think of it. Biden is trying to jail his leading political opponent, an opponent that's beating him by a lot in the polls, just like they do in Stalinist Russia or communist China. No different. Our country's gone very bad, and think of it, in 3 years. 3 years ago, we were energy independent, we had no inflation, we had low taxes, we had low interest rates, we had the greatest economy in history. Think of it. I could stand up here all day long and just talk about all of the great success we had. And now we have everything's the opposite. Inflation's killing our country. Energy is ridiculous and ridiculously high. We're getting energy from Venezuela. Nobody can even believe it. I never thought such a thing could happen to America. As far as the joke of an indictment, it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing for this country. I mean, the only good thing about it is it's driven my poll numbers way up. Can you believe this? Way up. Now it's driven up, way up, and somebody said the fundraising is through the roof. That's less important. But I will tell you, it's really driven us right through the sky. We're really winning big. We're winning by we're beating the hell out of the Republicans, and we're beating the hell out of Joe Biden. That's why they're doing it. If I wasn't, let me tell you, if I wasn't, there'd be no witch hunt. There'd be no indictment. If I was losing, we're winning by a lot. against the Democrats, if I were losing, you know, they're the party of disinformation. They say, oh, we want to run against Trump. We want to run so badly against Trump. We won the first time, and then we did better the second time than we did the first time. We won by many millions of more votes, much better, not even close. We got the most votes ever in the history of our country. And today we're more popular than we were in 2020. We're going to get numbers that are absolutely incredible. Federal law enforcement should never have been involved in this matter, but they got involved, and we just can't let that happen. They got involved with Twitter. They got involved with Facebook. The pollsters say it made maybe a 17-point difference. And then they say, I lost. We didn't lose. We won by a lot. But they say I lost by 20,000 votes. 20,000 votes. You know, we'd come here for rallies. We'd come to other states for rallies. But we'd come into Georgia for a rally. We'd have 40, 50,000 people. They'd come in for a rally. They'd have 8. They couldn't fill up the circles. And then you hear, he clipped you at the end. Just clipped you. Didn't happen. We won Alabama in a record number. We won South Carolina in a record number. And those people that run it, the professionals, say it's not possible to win Alabama in a record, South Carolina in a record, and lose Georgia just by a tiny little bit, you know? So you got to watch that. You got to watch it. We're all going to be watching it. As president, all of my documents fell under what is known as the Presidential Records Act, which is not at all a criminal act. Everything. It's all judged by the Presidential Records Act. In this whole fake indictment, they don't even once mention the Presidential Records Act, which is really the ruling act, which this case falls under 100%, because they want to use something called the Espionage Act. Doesn't that sound terrible? Oh, espionage. We got a box. I got a box. The Espionage. The Espionage Act of 1917. I think it was put in there about World War I boxes. And by the way, Biden's got 1,850 boxes. He's got boxes in Chinatown, D.C. He's got boxes all over the place. He doesn't know what the hell to do with them. And he's fighting them on the boxes. He doesn't want to give the boxes. And then they say, Trump is obstructioning. He's obstructing. No, it's a sad, sad day for the country. You know, I said, last night I said that our country has tears because of what's happening. We have fake elections. We have no borders. We have inflation. We have everything. It's just going wrong. There's never been anything like it in the history of our country. We've never done like this. And the division is so bad because what they do is so bad. And our people are angry, and they just keep doing it. And sometimes you need strength. You have to have strength, more than just normal strength. And we have to get it changed because we're not going to have a country left. Remember, I used to campaign, and I'd say that we're going to end up being Venezuela on steroids. And that's exactly what's happening to our country. Our country is going to hell. I was going to change the name of our campaign to Keep America Great. Now, that's not as good as MAGA. MAGA's MAGA, right? MAGA. And Keep America Great is CAG. I don't think CAG is never going to compete with MAGA. But we couldn't say Keep America Great because our country is not great. We're laughed at all over the world. We're no longer respected. 3 years ago, we were respected like our country has never been respected before. They also don't mention the defining lawsuit that was brought against Bill Clinton, and it was lost by the government, the famous Sox case that says he can keep his documents. They don't mention that. These are minor details, and that's the ruling law. When I left office and was moving to Florida, boxes were openly sitting on the White House sidewalk. Everybody was taking pictures of them. This isn't somebody smuggling boxes out. Pictures of them, you've all seen it, sitting with people from GSA and other people waiting to put them on a truck. But they were literally sitting outside of the White House waiting for a truck to come. Then the truck come. It was there for a long time, and they put it in, and they brought it down to Florida. and they make it sound like it's a big, if that's a spy operation or if that's something bad, we did a very poor job, I will tell you. First thing you learn is don't put them on the sidewalk in front of the White House. As a former president, we were negotiating with the National Archives and Records Administration, just as every other president has done. And the next thing I knew, Mar-a-Lago was raided by gun-toting FBI agents. We were negotiating. And again, meanwhile, Biden has troves of classified documents from his time as vice president, which is much tougher, actually. It's actually a much tougher standard. And even as a senator. And the senators are not allowed to bring classified documents. And I heard a senator named Dick Durbin, you ever hear of him? Happens to be a Democrat. He was beside himself. He couldn't believe that Biden took classified documents as a senator. It's a no-no, a real no-no. Can't do it. I was amazed that I saw him. I'm sure he changed his tune, you know, when he got the hell beat out of him when he went back into his beautiful marble-clad office. Many of Biden's documents were in Chinatown, and many of them were in places that you don't want to have documents. But I hear how wonderful he did. Think of it, 1,850 boxes he had. Mine is peanuts. But you saw mine because they were on that sidewalk. And they paid over $1 million a year, and they're still, you know, he was paid by China, really, because China makes a big payment to the area where he has the vast preponderance of documents, and he makes about $1 million a year paid by China, and these documents were strewn all over the place, and then he has documents strewn on his garage floor where he has the now famous Corvette. You know where that's stored, his beautiful Corvette. There was no security there. They had a garage door that you could cut it with a scissor. They didn't have Secret Service. I have Secret Service all over Mar-a-Lago. And Mar-a-Lago's strong and powerful. It was actually built by Marjorie Merriweather Post and E.F. Hutton. Remember, when E.F. Hutton speaks, people listen. Well, one of the greatest ads ever, but they built it, and it was built as the Southern White House, actually. Then Jimmy Carter gave it up. He said it was too expensive to be borne by it. I said, thank you very much. We have to get that. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you very much. But that was actually built as the Southern White House, so it's very powerful, but we have great people. Secret Service is all over the place, and that's the way we like it. But unlike me, who had absolute declassification authority as president, Biden didn't have any authority, and he had no right to possess those documents, none whatsoever. Yet nothing happened to Crooked Joe, with all that many, many, many times what we have. And you know, there was an article recently that all presidents take documents out. They bring them out, all of them, virtually every one of them in fairly modern times. If you look at Hillary Clinton, set up an illegal private server in her basement specifically to break public disclosure laws, and that would expose her and her family's finances. She stored vast quantities of classified and sensitive information, some of it leaking into Anthony Weiner. You remember him? Computer? Anthony Weiner, that was a real beauty. But much of it went into Anthony Weiner's computer. That's probably the last, I'm not sure. I think I'd rather have it on Hunter Biden's computer than Anthony Weiner's computer. And when caught, Hillary deleted and acid-washed 33,000 emails in defiance of a congressional subpoena. She already had the subpoena. And her aides smashed and destroyed iPhones with a hammer. Yet the FBI and DOJ protected her. They did absolutely nothing in Hillary's case. The FBI and DOJ largely did not issue subpoenas. They did not use a grand jury. They did not execute search warrants. And Comey declared that there was no problem. He said no reasonable prosecutor would ever bring a case like that. She knocked out 33,000 emails. And Hillary wasn't indicted. She should have been. But she wasn't indicted. She was protected by the Democrats. Biden was not indicted, and what he's done is terrible. You know, they like to say, well, what Trump did. I mean, actually, I was impressed. It looked so orderly and nice. Somehow somebody turned over one of the boxes. Did you see that? I said, I wonder who did that. Did the FBI do that? Because they also did something where they put documents all over the floors and they took pictures. And they tried to pretend like I did it, and then they had to apologize they did it. Remember that famous picture? But the box that was turned over, it had newspapers, it had pictures, it had clippings, it had all sorts of things. Nobody saw the documents there. Only Donald Trump is indicted, and they take one charge and they turn it into 36 charges. You saw that. Everybody was amazed. Lawyers on television, you know, they're not usually the best lawyers, but some are very good. They're saying we've never seen anything like it. They took one charge and they made it 36 different times. And we have a thug who's in charge. This is a political hit job. Republicans are treated far differently at the Justice Department than Democrats. These are the same people who caused the Lois Lerner catastrophe. That's this deranged Jack. You know who I'm talking about. Jack Smith. What do you think his name used to be? I don't know. Does anybody ever? Jack Smith. Sounds so innocent. He's deranged. But he's the one that caused the Lois Lerner catastrophe with the IRS, one of the worst things to happen in this country in many, many years, going after evangelicals and Christians and great Americans of faith. And they had to pay up, and they had to pay up dearly for it when they got caught. And this is the same guy, deranged Jack Smith. And I watched him yesterday go up and talk. He talked for about 2.5 minutes. He was shaking. He was so scared. He didn't want to be there. Because ultimately, these are cowards. They're cowards. And he's a big Trump hater. Openly, he's a Trump hater. And his wife is even more of a Trump hater. I wish her a lot of luck, but he's a bad Trump hater and she's a Trump hater. And you shouldn't put people like that in. And you know, the people looking at Biden, he's a very nice man. They looked at Mike Pence. He had classified documents, no problem. They looked at Biden. He has so many classified documents, they don't know what to do, and he's trying to prevent them from seeing it. That's obstruction. But we didn't do any obstruction. This is a sick nest of people that needs to be cleaned out immediately. Get them out. We now have two standards of justice in our country. The Democrat communists want to jail their opponents while they protect the murderers who prowl our cities day and night, and other brazen criminals. I mean, what's happening to your beautiful Atlanta is so horrible, so horrible. People are afraid to walk outside. And no criminal is more protected than crooked Joe Biden. You know, I retired the word crooked from Hillary, because Hillary doesn't matter anymore. And we're using it on Biden. Because in history, there's never been a president so corrupt. And thing after thing, Jamie Comer, Jim Jordan, the things that those committees are finding are incredible, and nobody wants to do anything about it. They say, we've caught them here, 5 million here, 5 million there, 2 million here. Getting paid massive amounts of money to be on the board of an energy company and admitting he knows nothing about energy. It's really very sad. It's no coincidence they indicted me the very same day that it was revealed that the FBI hid explosive evidence that Joe Biden took a $5 million illegal bribe from Ukraine. Right now, we don't have any ammunition. Ukraine has our ammunition, all of it, just about. Think of it, I rebuilt our military. We had so much ammunition. We were stuffed to the gills, as the expression goes, with ammunition. And now we have very little ammunition to protect ourselves. And then you see that he's getting large amounts of money from Ukraine. And then you wonder, why are we doing this. And by the way, that war, I'd have it negotiated and end. It's a horrible thing. In 24 hours between Zelensky and Putin. 24 hours. Everyone says, oh, you don't mean that. No, I'd have that thing done in 24 hours. Right as they're closing on Hunter and Joe Biden, they're closing in right now. They say, let's do this, let's go after Trump. That'll take a lot of the publicity away. We're too hot. That's what they did. Next, Hunter will probably be charged with some very minor offense so that the FBI and DOJ can pretend that they're fair. They want to pretend they're fair. We got Hunter for jaywalking. While they ignore the bribery, money laundering, and other massive crimes implicating crooked Joe Biden. Right here in Georgia, you have a lunatic Marxist district attorney of Atlanta who they say is coming after me over a perfect phone call. In fact, this call was even more perfect than the call I made to President Zelensky of Ukraine. This one is actually more perfect, where I'm complaining about the results of the election because I thought the results were ridiculous, and so do many other people in this room. And if you look at the numbers and if you look at the sheets, which sadly judges don't want to do and a lot of people don't want to do, but when you look at it, you look at truth to vote, when you look at other things with the stuffing of the ballot boxes, when you look at some of the data that came out in this election, 2020, but elsewhere, we have a long way to go in Georgia. They tell you you don't, but you do. You have a very, very long way to go. I had every right to complain that the election in Georgia was, in my opinion, rigged, that the election in Georgia was a disaster. I mean, you had a recent election where Jody Hice, congressman, very popular congressman, ran, and he was leading in virtually every poll. Where's Jody? Oh, Jody, stand up. Look at Jody. Whoa. Wow. But Jody's a better person than me because I really complain like hell. Jody says, well, we'll get him next time. But you know what, Jody? That was a bad, bad deal because you were leading in, was it every single poll? And leading by a lot. And the only question was whether or not you were going to get 50% or 49%. 50%, there'd be no runoff. 49%, there's a runoff. And not only didn't he get 50%, and the other person that you're running against, Brad, was very low in the polls. And those polls, and we have some of the pollsters here, by the way, they still can't believe it. But Jody ended up with a number. What was your final number, Jody? Yeah, around 37%. And the other gentleman got 51%, right? 51, no runoff. And then David Perdue was not losing by much. He was losing in the polls, but he wasn't losing by much. And on election day, he was wiped out. He lost by numbers that nobody ever thought possible. Very, very unfair. Look, we have to have honest elections. We just have to, or you don't have a country. You don't have a state. You don't have a country. You don't have anything. Remember, there was a so-called water main break that never happened. Remember the water main break? Think of that. The water main break. We got a break. Let's get in there. But that'll be coming up later as time goes by. Remember the tape? Then you have True the Vote. Found that Georgia was one of the most egregious states in the nation. Thousands and thousands and thousands of tapes showing a thing called good old-fashioned, right? Ballot stuffing. Good old-fashioned ballot stuffing. In Atlanta, people are afraid to walk to their local grocery store for a loaf of bread for fear of being assaulted or murdered. And yet, your local district attorney, Fannie Willis, is spending all of her energy, all of her money, all of her time trying to get Trump. Let's get Trump. Yeah. You know, you're setting, per capita, Atlanta is about the most dangerous city in the country. Can you believe it? And people are leaving in droves. I loved Atlanta, but they're leaving in droves because it's too unsafe. And they spend all their money trying to, everything. The number of lawyers. They got murderers that don't even get talked about. They have murderers that nobody even cares about. The numbers are astronomical. Beaten up, it's horrible. And they want to go into a phone call. By the way, you know,